Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about week number 1 quarterback start or sit decisions for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, I'm going to be going over every single game from Thursday Night Football all the way until Monday Night Football, and I'm going to be telling you guys whether I believe you should start or sit the quarterbacks in each matchup. But before we get on into the video, I would like to ask if you are new to the YouTube channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I'd also like to give you guys a quick word from my friends and my sponsor over at Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus only on the top tier athletes that have the biggest impacts on the game. Choose 10 out of the 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and the under based upon how likely it is to hit. Hit the most props and rack up the most amount of points to win your share of the prize pool. Thrive's $100,000 guaranteed contest is just $20 to enter, and first place takes home $20,000. Make sure that you guys sign up and use promo code Notorious when you sign up today, and you will receive a 100% instant first deposit match up to $100. Download the Thrive Fantasy app on the App Store or the Play Store, or by visiting their website www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. And we are back, so without further ado, let's get into the video. We begin with the Thursday Night Football matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in Tampa. Inside this matchup, I'm going to be starting both quarterbacks, Dak Prescott as well as Tom Brady. In every single one of these start-sit videos, I want to kind of instill into your guys' mind that a strategy for week number 1 for 2021, the strategy for week number 1 in 2071 is going to be to start your studs. You draft some of these guys early on in your draft. You drafted Dak Prescott potentially in the 5th or 6th round. Some people draft Tom Brady in the 7th or 8th round of their draft. So you're going to want to go ahead and start the guys that you paid the high draft capital for. But this is a matchup that, for me, I'm a little bit nervous about Dak Prescott because Zach Martin, one of the key pieces to the offensive line in Dallas, has COVID. So he will not be playing in this game, which is not good for Dak Prescott because the defense in Tampa Bay is really fucking good. And when you're going up against a tough defense, typically you want all of your offensive line, especially you want the key piece to your offensive line in Zach Martin. So I'm not telling you that everything is going to go bad here, because after Zach Martin was ruled out, the Vegas total on this game did not move an inch. It didn't move at all. It's still projected to be one of the highest scoring games on the week. Why is that? Because last season, even when the Dallas Cowboys were getting down in these games, when Dak Prescott was the starting quarterback, they were fighting back into these games. Later on in the game, down the stretch, they're crawling their way back into these games by throwing out of them, and I think Dak Prescott can do this up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but this will be a tough task for a quarterback that is coming off of an injury, playing up against one of the best defenses in the NFL in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if not the best defense in the NFL. For Tom Brady, this is a cupcake matchup. This is a cookie cutter matchup. Tom Brady is going to bend the Dallas Cowboys defense over and spank them 50 Shades of Grey style. They stand absolutely no chance up against Tom Brady. The Dallas Cowboys defense is screwed. He's going to put up a bunch of points, and then Dak later on in the game, he gets to fight back into the game and put up his points for fantasy football. So it's a chef's kiss, great connection. Tom Brady probably will win this game, but Dak Prescott will fight his way back in later on in the game to put up enough fantasy points to make him relevant for week number 1. Next up, we begin with the Sunday slate, the Seattle Seahawks at the Indianapolis Colts. In this matchup, I'm going to be starting Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, if you guys followed my channel in the offseason, I talked ad nauseum about how I believe the Seattle Seahawks are going to be a much more run-heavy team in 2021, how Pete Carroll has been talking about it all offseason. They lose their offensive coordinator, they bring a new one in, and I really believe that they're going to try to run the ball more. But you drafted him early, so you got to play him. You got to kind of feel it out here up against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have a pretty solid defense, but if Russell Wilson is going to be throwing the ball a decent amount in this matchup because this is a closer game, then yeah, I think Russell Wilson will certainly be worthy of a start this week. For Carson Wentz, he is going to be a sit in this matchup. This is his first game back from injury. I doubt he's 100%. He's probably like 90%. And up against the Seattle Seahawks, I'm just not too sure. I'm ready to roll that out in week number 1. Again, I don't think the Seattle Seahawks defense is the Legion of Boom from the back in the day from a couple of years ago. They're not that, but they're still good enough to, if Carson Wentz isn't 100%, he will be making some mistakes. I wasn't all that confident in Carson Wentz going into the season before the injury, and now I'm definitely cautious week number 1 up against the Seattle Seahawks. After that, we got the Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Now, I've seen some people talk up Tyrod Taylor in this matchup and talk him up because, hey, the Jaguars defense sucks ass. The Jaguars defense is terrible. You can roll Tyrod Taylor out there. Now, the best thing that happened to the LA Chargers last season was that the doctor punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung. They stood no chance with Tyrod Taylor under center, just like the Houston Texans stand no chance with Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback of their team. Now, do I believe Brandon Cooks can be fine for fantasy football? 100% because he's the lead receiver on the team, and you drafted him in like the 8th, 9th, the 10th, 11th round. So even if he ends up being a swing and a miss, you won't be that mad, but I still think he's going to be able to return value with Tyrod Taylor. But Tyrod Taylor, the quarterback, what does he do for you that makes you excited to start him in this matchup? The only thing that could possibly make you want to start him is because he's playing the Jaguars. And the Jaguars defense stinks. But this is a low point total game. This is a game that is projected to not be very high scoring at all. And Tyrod Taylor is not a quarterback that's going to magically be able to change that. He's not going to make some crazy plays. He's not going to throw some bomb deep down the field. Maybe Danny Amendola saves the day because he's been signed to the Houston Texans, but that doesn't move the needle at all for me. Danny Amendola, I don't even know why he's in the NFL anymore, but it is what it is. I'm sitting Tyrod Taylor. People will talk up his rushing upside. Fuck Tyrod Taylor. In reality, Tyrod Taylor is probably a great man, so I don't mean that, but for fantasy football, I'm not starting Tyrod Taylor this week, and I'm not starting him any week. For the Jaguars, I'm starting Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, normally, in week number 1, I kind of live by this standpoint for fantasy football. It's to just fade the rookie quarterback in week number 1. But this matchup is far too juicy. Marvin Jones is returning, DJ Chark is returning, and they're playing up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So despite him being a rookie, I think he may be able to tear up the Houston Texans defense. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Atlanta Falcons, which is a game that I have very much talked up on my channel thus far in the running back video, as well as the wide receiver start or sit video. So if you guys need advice on running backs or wide receivers, please make sure that you guys do check that out. Those videos are from yesterday. The reason why I like this game so much is because it's the classic matchup of both teams have a good offense, but both teams also don't have a great defense. While I'm not a huge believer in Jalen Hurts on a season-long standpoint, meaning at the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Hurts wasn't that top 10 quarterback, wasn't that top 5 quarterback that a lot of people have made him out to potentially be at the end of the year. But in this matchup up against the Falcons, you can throw all of that discredit, all of that kind of confusion about Jalen Hurts, about how kind of uncertain I am about Jalen Hurts. You take that, you dribble it like you're Kyrie Irving through the legs a bunch of times, and you fucking throw it directly out the window. Because the Atlanta Falcons defense isn't good. This is going to be a high-scoring matchup, so you're going to start Jalen Hurts in this game. Same thing goes with Matt Ryan, who is widely available on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. If you have another quarterback that's listed as a sit in this video, I really do advise you guys to look for Matt Ryan. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair all game. A lot of people are worried, oh, Nick, Matt Ryan, he's not as good without Julio Jones. And I know, but what people aren't factoring into that is that everyone likes Kyle Pitts, right? Everyone's talking Kyle Pitts up to be this rookie phenom. But then when you talk about Ryan Tannehill, then they point to the fact that Julio Jones is gone. What is Kyle Pitts then? Kyle Pitts is going to be the replacement for Julio Jones. Now, I'm not saying he's going to put up Julio Jones numbers, but he is going to be very heavily relied on in this offense. Russell Gage fills the role relatively well as well, so I'm pretty confident in Matt Ryan in this matchup. I think a lot of people, they say one thing, they think one thing, but then when it comes to the quarterback, for some reason they're panicking. It's kind of like with Big Ben Roethlisberger. Everyone likes Chase Claypool. Everyone likes Najee Harris because he's going to get all of these receptions. Everyone likes Deontay Johnson. But for some reason, Big Ben is always like quarterback 28 in people's rankings. How does that make any fucking sense? Next up, speaking speaking of Big Ben, just kidding, I think he's the next game on the docket. We got the LA Chargers at the Washington football team. While I do like Justin Herbert, the pervert, a lot this season, he proved everyone wrong, including myself last season. I honestly believed that Justin Herbert was going to be a bust. I don't know what was telling me that. It was his college football tape. He just didn't look all that good. I didn't see it. I didn't want him on the Dolphins. We took Tua. I was excited last year. Guess who played better? Justin Herbert. But this matchup up against the Washington football team could be fatal for Herbert at the beginning of the season. Now, I don't think this matchup is so tough to where you want to sit him, but don't expect a top 5 week out of Mr. Justin Herbert, the pervert. This is two very good defensive teams. Now, I don't think this game's going to be a certified snooze fest where you might just want to flip the game, watch a different game, or maybe just turn your TV off and stare at the fucking wall because that may be more interesting than the game that's on your television. But I think this is going to be a lower scoring matchup, and that's not going to be great for Justin Herbert, especially if the Chargers defense is able to play strong as well. Then this is going to be a lower scoring game where maybe Herbert doesn't have to crawl his way back into this one because the Chargers defense is actually healthy for once at the start of the season. So I expect Herbert to have a good season, but in week number 1, you definitely want to temper your expectations up against the Washington football team. I would have loved to came on here and told you guys to start Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch in the NFL, but against the Chargers defense, that's going to be a no from me up against the LA Chargers. So I'm going to be sitting Ryan Fitzpatrick this week and starting Mr. Justin Herbert, the pervert. Next up, speaking of Big Ben, here he is, the Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. This is another case of start your studs. You drafted Josh Allen potentially in like the 3rd round of your draft. You draft him in the 4th round, so you're going to play him in week number 1. This is a game that has a very high projected point total, despite both of these teams having relatively solid defenses. Now, there's a lot of reports about Steelers TJ Watt potentially holding out until he gets that bag, until they back the fucking Brinks truck up and give him his money. Should he do that? Should he not do that? I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm not someone who's going to tell a guy not to get his money. Go ahead, TJ. Get your fucking money. It's okay with me. I think he deserves it. He's a very solid player. He might not be in this game, but that wouldn't really affect my opinion on Josh Allen too much. Sure, TJ Watt's a great player, but I was starting Josh Allen anyways. For Big Ben, there is kind of this thought process on Big Ben, which is 100% true, that he just plays better at home. And this game is in Buffalo, so I'm not going to be starting Mr. Big Ben. Next up, we have the 49ers at the Detroit Lions. Now, I also make videos on the Awesemo Fantasy Football YouTube channel, and in a video I made earlier on this week on Monday, I talked about my week number 1 quarterback streamers, the quarterbacks you can pick up off the waiver wire and play in week number 1. And I talked about Jimmy Garoppolo up against the Detroit Lions, how I believe this is going to be a smash matchup. I believe the 49ers might leave with the Lions mascot's head on a spear, and then I started to think about maybe Jimmy Garoppolo, they get up too much. The 49ers get up by so many points that they say, hey, Jimmy, get out of here. It's Trey Lance time. And then Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't finish the game, so he doesn't play too well. And then I realized that, Nick, that makes no fucking sense, because if the 49ers are bending the Lions over, then Jimmy Garoppolo would have done good enough before they pulled him out probably in the 4th quarter, that he would have been fine for fantasy anyway. So I'm not going to advise you to sit down Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo as a starting quarterback. I believe Trey Lance should be the guy, but in fantasy football for this week up against the Detroit Lions, Jimmy Garoppolo is basically a must start. I'm going to be sitting down Jared Goff in this game. The 49ers defense is tough. The Lions offense is bad. Jared Goff isn't that good, so he's definitely not going to be a guy I'm looking to start this week. But before we get on into the next game, if you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, please make sure you hit that like button as well to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. And I don't normally plug my Twitter in these videos, but if you guys have a Twitter and you like to see what I tweet about, mostly it's about football, make sure you follow me on there, link down below in the description as well, at Notorious FNTSY. Next game here, we got the Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. This is another matchup where I believe it is going to be just a barn burner. An ultra high scoring game. This is a Revolutionary War level matchup. If you guys remember anything from history class back in the day when you took history, or maybe yesterday, because some of you guys are still in high school, you know, still in college, so maybe you're learning about this now. In the Revolutionary War, they used to just stand there, load their musket, aim it at each other, wait for the command, fire, shoot, and then reload. And then you know what the other opponents were doing? What the British were doing, or what the US were doing, depending on which side you're on? They would, while you're reloading, your ass is now getting shot at. That's basically what's going to be happening in this game. A Revolutionary War level matchup of the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And for this comparison to make sense, I'm going to give you guys an example for the game. So the Bengals are going to score on the Vikings. So they shot their shot. And now, when the Bengals are reloading, the Vikings are going to score. And that's going to go back and forth with the reloading, with a lot of scoring. I love this game. Kirk Cousins, you like that? I like that. I love this matchup for Kirk Cousins. He was another quarterback that I talked about in that quarterback waiver wire video for the must-stream quarterbacks of the week. It's Kirk Cousins. The Bengals defense is fucking bad. Even though Jamar Chase, for some reason in practice, can't get any separation from the Bengals defense, they are terrible. Kirk Cousins, this offense, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. This is a smash matchup for all pieces, all the key pieces of the Minnesota Vikings offense. Same thing goes with the Bengals. Joe Burrow coming off the injury. Unlike with Dak, this is an ideal matchup up against the Minnesota Vikings defense. I think Joe Burrow cooks them up for dinner here in this matchup. Next up, we got the New York Football Jets at the Carolina Panthers. And this is the classic case of a revenge game. The Sam Darnold, the Mono Man Sam revenge game up against the New York Football Jets. Adam Gase did this guy dirty, and he is going to put fear. He is going to instill fear in the eyes of the Jets defense. He is going to go to pound town on the Jets defense. I always am a big believer in the revenge game narrative. I believe that Sam Darnold's pissed at the Jets, and I believe he is going to destroy them. I think Sam Darnold puts on a clinic up against the Jets defense strictly because of the revenge game narrative. And I'm going to be sitting down Mr. Zach Wilson. It's his first game in the NFL. He's going to get those first game jitters because the Panthers defense is a lot better than a lot of people give them credit for. And they're a defense that I'm looking to stream this week, which would mean that I believe the Jets offense is not going to look too hot in this matchup. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals at the Les Titans in Tennessee. In this one, it's another case of the start your studs. You drafted Kyler Murray super early. You're going to start him up against the Titans. Now, I wouldn't say this is the most ideal matchup for either of these quarterbacks, but it's also not a bad matchup at all. I expect this game to be relatively high scoring as well. I think Kyler Murray does his thing up against the Tennessee Titans defense. Don't be surprised if he rushes in at least one touchdown in this game. Ryan Tannehill going up against the Cardinals with the addition of Julio Jones. I think they're really going to show him off in this game. They're going to show out. They're going to play big here. Who's going to win this game? To be honest with you, this is a very good game. It's kind of one of those coin flip games. I could see either team winning, but I do believe Ryan Tannehill is going to put up some solid numbers in this game. Next up, we got the Browns at the Kansas City Chiefs. For fantasy football, on the whole season standpoint, I will basically never tell you to start Baker Mayfield because I believe that this is a run-heavy team, and it will be. Even in this game, they're going to try to run the ball, but the Chiefs are a team that you can't run the ball against the whole time because the Chiefs are going to put up points. Even if the Browns defense is really good, which I believe it to be, what am I, fucking Yoda? That's what that sounded like. But I think they're going to have a good defense. But still, Patrick Mahomes is going to eat them up. He's going to carve them up. He's going to dissect them like they're a fucking frog in a high school laboratory. Patrick Mahomes is going to put up big points in this game. It doesn't matter how good the defense is. Patrick Mahomes is just that good. So Patrick Mahomes is going to play great. You might have drafted him in like the second round. So obviously you're starting him. You're never going to sit down Patrick Mahomes. But the Browns are going to have to throw in this one. Baker Mayfield's going to have to actually throw the ball, whereas normally the game plan is to run a bunch. So Baker Mayfield will be useful in this matchup for fantasy up against the Chiefs, and don't be surprised if the Cleveland Browns end up on top of this matchup. Next up, we have my Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots, and while I think Tua Tagovailoa should have that breakout year, he should have that upgraded season from 2020 with him being fully healthy, with them firing Chan Gailey, I think my Dolphins, I'm wearing their shirt right now, I think they can win this game. But what I don't think is that this is going to be some barn burner, this super high scoring matchup. I don't think that's what we're going to see here in New England. I think this is going to be a run heavy game, a low scoring game. I think Mac Jones will look good in this game, but he's not going to look fantasy football good in this game up against the Dolphins defense. I also believe that Tua is going to look good in this game, but he's not going to look fantasy football start-worthy good up against a tough New England Patriots defense. Next up, we got the Denver Broncos at the New York Football Giants. If Drew Lock was playing right now, if horsecock Drew Lock was in this matchup, I would be literally probably standing up. Normally, I sit in my videos, I'd stand up and scream about how I believed that horsecock Drew Lock was going to smack up the Giants, because Drew Lock, week in and week out, he is just one of the craziest quarterbacks. He's basically like a worse version of Jameis Winston. You know what I'm talking about with Jameis Winston, right? Where he'll either go absolutely ham or he'll throw a bunch of picks. He's very momentum-based, Jameis Winston. And the same thing goes with Drew Lock. If Drew Lock starts the game off, he's playing like shit, then guess what? That game's going to be just done for. But if he starts off, he looks hot, then he's going to play great throughout the game. But with Teddy Bridgewater, come on, man. Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy checkdowns, Teddy two gloves. The Giants defense is good enough to where Teddy Bridgewater won't be great in this game. I'm still starting Judy. I'm still starting Courtland Sutton, but I don't think they're going to get a bunch of points from scoring touchdowns. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. This is a game where I talked about earlier how you might want to just turn off your TV and stare at the wall and look at that, or go ahead and maybe go outside and just look at the grass or something, or follow a bug around in the air and just look at that, because that might be more interesting than this game. This game's going to be a certified snooze fest. I'm sitting down Teddy Bridgewater, and Daniel Jones might legitimately throw 5 picks in this game up against the Broncos defense. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers at the New Orleans Saints, but the game is not in the Superdome. I believe that's the name of their stadium. It is actually in Jacksonville. If anyone was affected by the hurricane in New Orleans, I hope you are okay. And I hope that everything is getting better there in New Orleans. So, Packers at Saints, regardless of where the game is. Famous Jameis, he's used to that Florida air. Maybe he'll go ahead and steal a fucking crab after he wins this game, potentially, up against the Green Bay Packers. So I'm not going to tell you that they're actually going to win this game, but that was for the joke. Jameis Winston, he's a guy I'm starting. He's a guy where you walk up, you throw him in your lineup, but you need to have a huge you need a huge sack. You need to be like Santa Claus level sack when he is walking out there and giving all those gifts to the kids at night, okay? That's the level of sack you need to throw Jameis Winston into your lineup, because this could go all Jameis. This could go Jameis wins you your week, or this could go Jameis just stands no chance against the Packers defense. It could go one of two ways, and it's not going to go in the middle. I highly doubt there's going to be like, oh, Jameis looked all right, but he didn't do amazing, but he didn't play terrible. Nah, with Jameis, he's a fucking light switch. It's either on, this is famous Jameis Winston, or this guy is just throwing picks left and right, and that's the fun part about Jameis Winston. But maybe I was wrong, because there are some games where Jameis is just dialed in, and then he just forgets what he's doing, and then he's dialed in again. It's crazy. The Jameis roller coaster you can go on in the season, I'm starting him in this game. I believe in Jameis Winston. Aaron Rodgers, you draft him early. Obviously, it's a no-brainer here up against the Saints. This is projected to be a very high-scoring game via the Vegas point total. Next game here, we got Sunday Night Football between the Chicago Bears at the LA Rams. Andy Dalton. Matt Nagy, what are you doing? What are you doing? We all know Justin Fields should be the quarterback in this game, but my thought process was, while this is definitely not true, that maybe, just maybe, Nagy realized that, hey, maybe I don't want to get Justin Fields killed by Aaron Donald in the first week of the season. Maybe we'll sit him down for this game, and then next week we'll throw Justin Fields in there. That's the hope. I doubt that that's what's going to happen, but Andy Dalton's definitely a sit in this game. The Rams defense is tough. Matthew Stafford going up against a tough Bears defense, but I think he's good enough to play pretty decently. Again, not really a guy I'm thinking that's going to finish inside the top 5, but it's definitely probably likely to finish as a top 12 quarterback on the week, even up against the Bears defense. Final matchup here, we got the Baltimore Ravens at the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. Here, we're starting Lamar Jackson again. You start your stud, but this is a good matchup for where you want to start your stud, because the Raiders defense isn't the best. I believe the Baltimore Ravens are going to control the clock in this game. They're going to drip the clock by running the ball, and lucky for you, Lamar Jackson is excellent at running the ball. Derek Carr, while I like him actually a decent amount 4 season long on the season, but up against the Ravens, where they're going to drip the clock, where you're going to have to be throwing, you're going to be making these bad decisions later on in the game, I just don't trust Derek Carr in this matchup. And it's likely if you drafted Derek Carr, you have other quarterbacks you can play this week as well. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Again, not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new or not, make sure you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm. I would really appreciate it. Make sure you check out yesterday's videos as well. If you missed them, running back start or sit, and wide receiver start or sit decisions for week 1 of the 2021 fantasy football season. I love you guys all. Happy Wednesday, my dudes and my gals, because I know there are a couple of ladies who watch these videos. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Stay safe as always. Goodbye.